What is going on, YouTube? We just got out of the movie theater seeing Spider-Man No Way Home, and guys, we gotta react. So I'm Chris, Sid and Jay are here with us, West Coast, East Coast siblings. We're gonna break it all down. So hit the subscribe button and click the bell, and guys, stay tuned because Witcher Season 2 is coming out tonight. So guys, initial reactions, let's get right into it.
First of all, you need to know that we are absolutely going to spoil this movie. So if you've not seen it, don't watch this. There's no part of this that will not be spoiling Spider-Man.
So just turn it off right now.
Just cut it off now. Do yourself a favor.
Or don't.
And ruin it first.
You've been warned. So initial reactions, guys. What did you think of the movie? Man. Okay. Sydney's
Those were her same convulsions at the theater.
You guys, it was so good on so many levels. It was just so magical to see Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield there. I do appreciate Tom Holland. It was great. You know, I appreciate all three of them. But man, to see Tobey Maguire, that's my Spider-Man, like from my childhood. Yeah, I mean, Tobey really proved on a global scale that a superhero movie could work in the modern era. Because the last time we had a successful superhero movie was Superman, like, and the Superman series, really, and the Batmans did well. But Spider-Man brought the superhero. Successful. Well, they were, but they came out around the same time. Because Sam Raimi came out in 2001. Yeah. So, guys, I'm going to go ahead and say this was and I gotta let myself calm down. This was the best Marvel movie that I've ever seen. Ooh. Over Thor. That's a bold, over Thor. That is a, but very honestly, bold.
I knew I was gonna say it's the best one that I've ever seen.
And honestly, only Spider-Man could have done this.
Yep.
Because I think, and I love that this. I mean, we'll get into the story a little bit later, but Spider-Man is such a deep character. Like, obviously, Stan Lee made him because he wanted to make a superhero who had problems. And all this time in the MCU, Spider-Man's life has been relatively chill compared to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. Like, no pain was there.
So, I basically have to echo the same sentiments. I think that with what we got from this movie, we saw, to me, what was a combination of the pain that both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire got from their Spider-Man series. I think that when you look at what the portrayal was for this version, I mean, we never really got a beginning, right? We never got which was one of the main things that we kind of all enjoyed about this version of Spider-Man with Tom Holland. You know, we all know the story. It's not like, it's just like with Batman. You don't have to rehash the beginning over and over.
We get it.
And if you are, you have to do it different. So this beginning of a Spider-Man series that we've gotten with Tom Holland was different.
And I think that's the thing about this movie is that it did humanize Peter Parker.
Yeah, it brought him down to scale. Like, he is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Like, and we've seen him in space so much.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of suffering. I mean, heartthrob moments with Tobey's Spider-Man, with Uncle Ben, definitely with Andrew Garfield and
Gwen.
Right. So I think that those moments, whether you liked the Spider-Man or not, those moments made you be like, I feel for you. You know what I'm saying? Where we never really had that for Tom Holland until, big spoiler, guys, Aunt May dies. So I think with that,
murked by the Green Goblin.
She definitely did, and it was a callback to the way that Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin died via the glider. So the glider, I believe, impaled her when it came through. With that, guys, let's go into the story, though, because that was...
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, it's definitely.
I always feel this way with the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. That you get to a point where, like, a half hour in, and you're just like, okay, like, what is happening? Like, okay, like, we know bigger stuff is about. Like, I felt this way with Mysterio. I was like, he's not a good guy. Why are we still watching him be a good guy? And then it takes this drastic turn. So I felt like that with this. But at the same, it's kind of like, you know all of these big things are coming, but they have to dole out a story. And so even though it felt a little slow at the beginning, I still enjoyed it. And obviously the back half of the movie was, like, phenomenal. And the first half was fine. It just wasn't like...
I thought the entire thing through and through was very well done. Like, again, I'm going to double down and say this was the best Marvel movie I've ever seen. Because Spider-Man, and like Sydney said, Spider-Man's kind of the only character who could do that because he's just that big. And I'm genuinely going to say that DC has not done a movie like that yet. Snyder's Justice League was up there. But what they were able to do in taking I'm eras of Spider-Man that different fan bases at different ages grew up with, and they paid homage, and they did it so well. That's never been done in a superhero movie, period, or any movie for that matter.
Marvel totally respected their fans. Like the fan service in this movie, down to the quotes from the original movie, some of the imagery, the way the
And I don't want to digress, but they've always gotten that right.
They've always
compared
gotten that
to DC. Marvel has always done what the fans wanted.
I mean, it's no secret, if you've watched this channel, you know that the three of us are heavy DC fans.
All day.
With a true respect for what Marvel has been able to do. And I think that in that, like you said, Sid, I think that, is the absolute nail on the head, is the fact that Marvel listens and respects their fans. Being able to take the source material and bring it to life and give us that emotion, that is where they've done a great job.
It really is in their DNA. But as far as the story goes, so we pick up with Peter right where...
like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, pretty much 2 seconds after the last Spider-Man, Far From Home. And he's dealing with what just seems like a circus of the world reacting to him being Peter Parker and the world knowing that. And it seems like everything's falling apart. So then he gets Strange involved and everything goes haywire from there.
It's like initially the goal was for everyone to forget who that Peter was Spider-Man. And that happens and goes wrong. Yeah, I'm trying to make sure that makes sense.
So he wanted everyone to forget that he was Spider-Man, but then he realizes there are some people, obviously, he still wants to know that he's Spider-Man. So then it seems like everything's saved. Everything's put back together, but characters from the other two Spider-Man franchises slip their ways through the cracks.
That's what happens. Everyone who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man across the
multiverse. Yeah, I think they get that. I think they get it at this.
Shut up!
This is what led to all of the knowledge of Peter Parker being Spider-Man being brought into this MCU multiverse that we're getting. The way that we would see the interaction between Strange and Peter throughout this movie was just a very telling thing as to this is going to be his new mentor now that Tony is gone.
So Spider-Man gets all these other villains involved, slipping through the cracks, and what he wants to do is cure them, but it doesn't go that way. But guys, I think that's a perfect way to segue into the cameos. Let's talk about the amazing characters that slipped through the cracks, and what were your favorite ones? What were you surprised by?
I know Christopher had said something before, but I was just so surprised to see Matt Murdock. I was like, oh, snap! Oh, snap! That was great. And then the catch. Oh my gosh, I was like, yes, it's a beast.
So, as you guys know, in the comics, there's such a thing about Spider-Man and Daredevil, right? From their different sections of New York and who has faster reflexes. And people have said Daredevil can go toe-to-toe with Spider-Man, besides strength. But with quickness and reflexes, they're right there with Spidey. So
that was definitely one of my favorites. I absolutely loved Charlie Cox's interpretation of Daredevil through the Netflix series. This was one of the main things that I was waiting for after Disney purchased
after they got the rights back.
After they got it back. But this was one of the main things that I was very much looking forward to.
Let's talk about the cameos everyone cares about. Okay. First of all, Tobey Maguire was there.
Okay, well that's like the big one. That's the big one. Okay.
You said that already.
I fanboyed.
You said that too.
I fanboyed.
Guys, I totally.
It was
the entire theater was fanboy.
Oh yeah, and you knew it was gonna. It was like what this movie was. It was like going to a sporting event. You know that when the big players come up, everybody's gonna go nuts because we haven't seen these characters in like a decade at least. You know what I'm saying? So, but bring it on. So we got Goblin, we got Electro, we got Sandman.
We got Sandman. And I was surprised with Sandman, especially because I was like, why is he being Sand the whole time? Like, he wasn't Sand in the movie.
Well, I thought it was because they couldn't get the actor.
I thought they weren't going to get the actor. No, I knew that was his voice. But I was like, if they have his voice, why don't he just show up? They probably didn't want to pay him to be on set because they did the same thing with Doc Connors and
exactly. And it may have been, also scheduling conflicts as well, like who they could actually get in to do their cameo and stuff. But this just shows the power of such a mega force as the MCU with the cash flow that Disney has. They can, and this is why I think that Marvel is in such a better position than DC, because they can take their time with anything. Nobody's going to rush them. Nobody's going to outspend them. They're going to do it right. They're going to pay the fan service. There is one thing I absolutely hated about this movie, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, guys, more with the cameos. My personal favorite, obviously, is Tobey Maguire. He was the first superhero that was part of my generation when I was younger, going to the theaters, that I actually got excited for.
Yeah.
I mean, in Spider-Man 3, when he took on 3 villains at once, I was like, this dude is a beast.
I think he might be the reason why Spider-Man, when I was younger for sure, was my favorite superhero. Now it's a little different. But I mean, I still love Spider-Man. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And I like the way that he played Peter. Like, he played an older Peter, a wiser Peter, one who had been through a bit.
Which actually echoes to Spider-Verse with Miles Morales.
Right.
So, Jay, what were some of your favorite cameos?
I loved seeing Willem Dafoe back as the Green Goblin.
Yes.
I think
He almost stole the show.
He always does.
did, like-
He always is just, one, I can never see Willem Dafoe as anything but a villain,
Absolutely.
and it's because of the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
This, and he
has that
absolutely knocked it out of the park
Oh.
again. And one thing that I wanted to say when I was taking my notes in the theater watching this movie, Willem Dafoe would absolutely make the most incredible older Joker that I will ever want to see.
No doubt.
So if you're listening, DC,
Pay
you
that
need to
man.
need to pay that man to be the Joker.
Yeah.
All you had to do was hear Willem Dafoe's voice.
The laugh.
And the crowd just went, Spider-Man. And it was like, wow.
It's so nice to see American actors showing up and knocking it out of the park. Like Willem Dafoe, whoever played Doc Ock, because, now we have Tom Holland, who is British. We have Cumberbatch, who is British. We have Garfield, who is British. We have so many non-American actors, and it's fine. They do a great job. Like, obviously, they're phenomenal. But it's nice to see, some good, classic, strong American actors. Jamie Foxx, performing well.
Jamie
so
Foxx
I really
was
loved
hilarious.
that. Yeah.
He was hilarious.
He did such a great job.
But to be fair,
He was hilarious.
I don't know that I've seen a really bad Jamie Foxx movie. One thing I do have to mention about that, though. Andrew Garfield was trying to show off by bulking up for this one, because let me tell you, he stood out physically compared to the other two.
He was not scrawny.
And
Not
you could
at
tell,
all.
obviously, Tobey Maguire's older and whatnot, but he's shrunken. His shoulder width is
Yeah.
gone down. He
Yeah.
just looked smaller.
Yeah, but I think, and let us know in the comments down below what you think of this. I think Andrew Garfield, it's kind of like what happened with Ben Affleck's Batman. It was, and even what's happening with Cavill's Superman right now. You have an actor who absolutely is in love with the character and wants to tell so many stories. And because of this, that, and the other thing, and I know Garfield got in some trouble with Sony, but I'm glad that Disney is kind of saying, "Oh yeah, we'll take you," because Sony had no intention of bringing him back. But you can see the love that he has for the character, and I think he was vying. You tell me. I think he was vying for a spinoff.
Yeah, I think he definitely was, especially because Maguire seemed to be like, "I'm Spider-Man. I did it. I'm iconic. I'm good, and I'll take a step back."
Right.
But you could tell Andrew Garfield was pushing for a little more, Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I just love oh my gosh, when Mary J, or what's her name, Michelle Jones, MJ, fell off the thing and he caught her. I was like, yes, you
he
get
got to redeem
save her.
himself.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about. You make a good point. Let's talk about some of the non-superhero characters. I think Zendaya killed this role.
Yeah, she did a great job.
I think she killed it.
I
I mean, her vulnerability with Tom, and it helps that they're in a romantic relationship at this point as of the recording of this video in real life. But man, I just thought she brought so much into the role that let Tom really have an anchor for his emotions for the movie.
It really felt like Ned was a third wheel,
and
not just unnecessary.
He was.
And honestly, that is how that character should be played.
Exactly. That's
so
true.
it just worked out, and I feel like with Zendaya's performance as MJ through this series now, I feel that she's gotten stronger in the role.
She absolutely has,
and really grown into the role through each film.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. There are two things that pee me off about this movie. Let's talk about that for a second. So at the end of the movie, we all know that Strange fixes everything by erasing people's memories. Out of those people, even MJ gets her memory erased. And I know that Spider-Man has a long list of ladies, all right? You're from Felicia Hardy, MJ, Gwen, you name it, right? Spider-Man's got some gals. But the way he did her, she made him promise that he would come and find her. And he claims to love her, and then he saw the scar on her head, and he was reminded of Green Goblin and his voice saying, "Everyone you touch gets hurt.
Yeah.
And he left
But honestly,
Mary Jane.
yeah, that's messed up. But
That's
that's
not cool.
also a classic Spider-Man struggle. Every single Spider-Man has had to deal with that, and Tom Holland's Spider-Man has had no problems. He has had no problem getting the girl, her being happy. He literally in their relationship, he never did anything wrong. Like she's never been angry with him, anything like that. He needs some sort of inner struggle
But
to
it was
deal
so
with.
young in the relationship.
I
They
agree.
hadn't been together that long.
I agree, but
I also, the other thing it did kind of bother me about that was the fact that, you know, he knew what she wanted from him. That she wanted him to remind her. And when she pulled back her hair and he saw the you know, the Band-Aid over the scar, that should have been the full-fledged moment to go forward with it.
Yeah.
You know, he had his whole little speech written out, and the fact that he didn't, I know you say it's like a struggle that he never really had in this version of it, but in reality, he should have taken what she said and gone with it.
He should have.
Yeah.
The fact
Yeah.
that Ned was just in tears over the fact of not being able to know his
It
friend.
was like their dying wish.
Right.
And he didn't respect
and he
it.
didn't respect
Yeah,
it.
and
yeah.
that-
So
'cause
that's
he
the
knew
perfect
what's
way to
better.
put it.
But
Yeah, that
that's-
peed
I
me
mean,
off.
That's classic Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I'm
does
sorry.
it.
They
That's what he
could,
does.
but I would have almost rather she died because at least she would have died outside of his hands. But he basically killed
But he'll
both
come
of his
back
friends
to
that he
her.
claims.
He'll come
No,
back to
well, I love what she said. She's like, if you don't, I'm gonna just figure it out again.
Right.
And I think that she's gonna figure it out.
That to me is going to be the, you know, the way we kind of lead into the fourth.
There's a lot to talk about with the future of the MCU with
Yeah.
not only Venom but also the
The larger
widespread
MCU.
MCU and some characters that maybe slipped through the cracks during
Yeah.
that scene. So let's get into that. Spoiler alert for Venom. If you haven't seen that,
There's
click
two
off.
post-credit scenes.
Yes.
Let's
Right.
just start there.
Stay
Yeah, there are
for
two
both.
post-credit scenes, but if you haven't seen Venom, you want to click off or not watch this. So we left with the Venom movie with Eddie Brock being in the MCU, seeing Spider-Man being announced by J. Jonah Jameson as Peter Parker, and so now we catch up with Eddie Brock at a
Yes.
bar.
At
What-
the end.
in
And
Mexico.
I was kind of disappointed because I thought at the end of Venom that we were going to see him in No Way Home, but we don't see him pretty much at all. He's literally in this bar in Mexico during the whole story, and at the end he just gets zapped back, but he leaves a little bit of the symbiote.
Yeah, and this is huge.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
in that scene, Eddie's talking to the bartender, and he's getting the rundown of everything that happened with Thanos. So they don't specifically say Thanos. They say, you know, the alien from outer space looking for some stones. Eddie doesn't think that aliens are looking for stones. And I'm going to make a kind of bold claim here. I don't think that the Venom that's going to be fighting Spider-Man is actually going to be Eddie Brock.
Fair enough.
Who
Yeah, they're going to
I
start
think
with the
that-
black suit.
I think that
Yeah.
whoever is going to
Oh.
inhabit this symbiote that got left at the bar in Mexico is going to be the villain that we're seeing. And I think that at first, Eddie and Spider-Man are going to work together to fight this symbiote that gets left behind.
Eddie without powers?
Eddie, with the venom that's in him, is going to team with Spider-Man to
A
fight
different
this.
Eddie, not Tom Hardy.
Yeah, Tom
Yeah,
Hardy.
yeah. He's talking.
Oh,
No, Tom Hardy and Tom Holland are going to work together because this other symbiote that gets inhabited is going to be the villain.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you know, I think, man, I don't know how to feel about this Venom cameo. I honestly think Disney did it in a little bit of a cheap way.
Yeah.
Let me explain why. So, first, I think that Venom should have been Tom Hardy in the MCU. I just think that's how they should have gone about it because we're already used to this Venom. We don't want to see another Venom. And technically the black suit comes before Venom, black suit Spider-Man. So the reason that Disney wasn't, that they had to do this was because they backed themselves into a corner story-wise. So there are two kind of ways Venom typically gets introduced in Spider-Man stories. Either through the Fantastic Four, who are not in the MCU yet. By going into space and finding it or whatever. The other one is by a meteor, which hasn't happened. So it begs the question, does the symbiote hive mind exist in the MCU? We're going to assume it does, but maybe in this universe the meteor misses Earth or something like that. Either way, the Venom that we know in the MCU now comes from another universe.
With the second, post-credit trailer, basically that's what it was that we got, was a trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We saw him speaking with Wanda, and it felt like a trailer.
If you guys have watched What If,
This
right?
is a bad
we know
dude.
that the Watcher has gotten himself into a bunch of trouble with Vision, and Ultron. Ultron is up in Vision with all 5, 6 of the Infinity Stones. And that's why evil Doctor Strange and Watcher have made a team of a different type. What do they call them? Guardians of the Universe? A new group of good guys to fight him, right? So my question is, why is evil Doctor Strange here? Didn't they fix the problem? They did fix the problem.
Right, so I think that's something we have to clarify for the viewers at home.
I just did.
What's happening in the What If universe is not necessarily happening in the main MCU. The whole idea of it was to show like otherworldly stories of what could happen, and that's kind of following the story of What If is just a main anchor for the What If storylines. So really it could have just been a bunch of separate stories, but they said, hey, let's tie this together into one story, and that's where we're getting the Dark Doctor Strange and the Watcher and what's happening with him. As far as the MCU, there aren't really any plans to bring in the Watcher at all yet. And so all those things would have to be introduced. Plus, the thing with Vision and Thanos being combined into one person,
it's Ultron.
Vision, and Ultron being combined into one character, that's also something that would be too big for them to do on screen at this point, and so that's why it went on to What If. So then for them to now do it in the actual MCU would just be redundant. So I actually don't think that they're going to have anything to do with the storyline that we saw in What If. It's not going to be the live action MCU.
I think there's going to be mention of it.
Mention of what?
Everything that happened in What If. Not everything, but the Watcher and the... the Watcher does I think exist. That's how we're getting evil Doctor Strange in there, because we've seen evil Doctor Strange his origin.
So there's going to be multiple versions of Doctor Strange, not all of which are going to be good. And to me, that's going to be how they introduce.
Yeah, and that is kind of the comic origins of the Dark Doctor Strange or Evil Doctor Strange, is that it's almost the same exact origin story, except he chooses to follow the paths of evil instead of good. The fact that we can treat this post-credit scene as just the trailer for Doctor Strange. In fact, it's probably going to be released online tomorrow as the trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, where we do get to see, like you said, Doctor Strange reunite with Wanda and basically dealing with the repercussions of what he did in Spider-Man. Yeah, that's what sets up the entire thing.
What kind of confused me, the fix for the big issue that was, No Way Home, was for everyone to forget that Peter existed.
Correct.
How does that fix the problem?
Right, so what was happening was the spell was only pulling in people that knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. That's what it was pulling in. Now, when that was happening, as the spell became more and more unstable, other people were able to slip through. Now, they were able to stop it and stop the majority of the characters slipping through by putting in a spell that no one knows. Who Spider-Man is in all the
all of the
yes, so that was a multiverse-wide spell.
Right. Okay.
So no one knows who Spider-Man is. Thus, there would be no reason to pull anyone in.
Gotcha.
So it stopped and allowed Strange to close it.
Gotcha.
But during that time, I think some characters came in. I really think Fantastic Four or the X-Men.
Got up in
the X-Men.
Little mutation happened.
So it's going to happen. But yeah, no, I think Doctor Strange is really. You could almost see this movie as Doctor Strange Part 1.
It's like a prequel for Multiverse of Madness.
Following WandaVision, we kind of thought that she was going to be the villain in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. But in this, we saw that he was asking for her help. And she seemed kind of reluctant at first, but we then saw her in her Scarlet Witch, full-fledged attire. So we know that she's going to be some significant part of trying to fix whatever got messed up.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting too is he asks her what she knows of the multiverse, and she looks at him like she knows something about the multiverse. But the only inclination that we know she knows anything about the multiverse is Peter, who's an X-Men, Quicksilver. That's the only way we know she knows anything.
No, she knows more about that. If we remember the end of WandaVision, Wanda was in that place, in that remote place, and she was experimenting with breaking into the multiverse. And she called out to her.
How did she know anything about the multiverse? Was it because
being a Nexus being, and she was experimenting with the book. Remember, she had the book open.
Oh, it said something in the book about it.
Yeah, she's learning all that stuff. Gotcha. In fact, I would argue that the WandaVision we see now is probably 2 times more powerful, at least, than the WandaVision we got in WandaVision. Let us know what you thought of Spider-Man No Way Home. Be careful in the description and in the comment section for spoilers, guys, but we're gonna have it be a spoilery comment section because it's a spoilery video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We know this was a long video, but we had so much to say, and we're glad that you guys were here to discuss it with us, and keep the conversation going down in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video if you like the video. Hey, go ahead and dislike it, because guess what? You can't see the dislike count on YouTube anymore, so we don't care. No, I'm just kidding. Don't spam us with the dislikes. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Click the bell so you don't miss Witcher Season 2 comes on tonight. We're jumping right into that right after we record this. Yeah. So thanks so much for watching, guys. West Coast, East Coast siblings. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.